Hey guys, this is your host, Franziska Weinheimer, and welcome back to the Hikers Anonymous podcast. On this podcast, I help share people's inspirational stories about how hiking, backpacking, and the outdoors changed their lives. If you have an inspirational story about how the outdoors positively impacted your life, please send a short synopsis to hikeoregon@hikeoregon.net and put in the subject line podcast guest. Today, I'm talking with Lindsey, who fell in love with backpacking at the age of 16. She is an incredible outdoors woman, and she recently went on a solo winter overnight trip. To hear more about Lindsey's story, stay tuned. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on today, Lindsey. I want to hear about your story. Did you grow up enjoying the outdoors with your family, or were you more of a city kid?
Well, I did grow up in the city, but yeah, I did spend a lot of time outdoors. My dad was in the military in the Navy, so fortunately, we didn't have to move around a lot. But where we did live was on, the coast, just because it's the Navy. So I spent the first half of my childhood in Hawaii, and so living on military housing. My I have a twin brother. We were fortunate enough to just be able to kind of roam from sun up to sundown, um, because it was, a guarded. You had there was a guard that granted access in and out, so it was pretty safe. Families looked out for one another, and we were 7 years old riding to our bikes to basically the beach, and then just by ourselves. And then my dad every weekend would take us to the beach. And then when he got stationed in California, we would spend a lot of time camping. We'd go camping at least, once a month. And then as I got older, I was involved in sports. And then living in California, I had the fortunate benefit during the winter of going snowboarding in the morning, coming home, putting my snowboard away, grabbing my boogie board, and going to the beach. So,
Oh
um,
my gosh, that sounds so epic.
it was great. So, yeah, a lot of time outside. Um, not too I mean, I would go on hikes, but not, a lot, but I did spend a lot of time outside.
That sounds so amazing. What a great way to grow up.
Yeah, it was. So,
So, in your email, you said that the first time you went backpacking, you were about 16. Tell me about this backpacking trip.
well, it was extremely memorable. My aunt and uncle, they wanted to go on a backpacking trip in Kauai along the Nepali coast. And so, my twin brother and I, we were 16 at the time, and they asked if we wanted to go, and we said yes. And so my uncle, he owned a pool business. I remember spending that summer helping him with his pool, helping him acid wash a customer's pool, just to earn money for my backpack. And um, so we ended up spending it was almost 2 weeks in Hawaii and in Kauai, and we camped the entire time at campgrounds, and then we did the Nepali coast trip, 11 miles one way. And I just, there were parts of it I hadn't really researched backpacking, but it was Hawaii, so thankfully there was plenty of running water, and so we had a filter, but we didn't, have to worry about warm sleeping bags or anything. Um, and so I went with like a fleece sleeping bag. I don't even remember what I used for a sleeping pad. I know my brother and I shared the tent, but it was just like a big five tent. Um, and a lot of top ramen. But I just remember it being such a wonderful experience. I know my brother and I got in little squabbles, on the trip, but it was so incredible. It was just this, you go inland and then you come back out to the coast, a lot of that going in and then back out, in and back out. I just remember it being super hot as you were going in and muggy. And then you could feel as you were coming back out towards the coast because the temperature would drop and just so much cooler. You'd feel that breeze, and you backpack, you get to this beach that can only be accessed by helicopter, boat, or hiking in. There are no roads to it. And Um, it was funny, there's kind of these people that live there, they're, not supposed to, and so a helicopter, the rangers will come and check permits, they'll fly in occasionally, and the people, they did that while we were there, and the people that live there, it's like a nudist type colony, and they just all fled to the hills when they came because, they'd get busted, but it's great. They were like, you know, super friendly. They invited us to their campfire. They had like, homemade mead, and they're like, yeah, come join us. And so it was just a great, fun experience. And after that, I knew like I was going to backpack again. And then, next thing I know, um, 20, 21 years have gone by, and that is my next backpacking trip. I couldn't believe that much time had passed. Yeah. And, it was just life. I got married at 20, and we had two kids. And in between that, life happened, lots of moves, struggled with lots of miscarriages, a few ectopic pregnancies. Um, and so just and then also the fear, I didn't really know anybody else at the time who did it. And I didn't really like put myself out there to find anyone. So I just never really had an opportunity presented to me, and I never went out and sought the opportunity. And so my twin brother and my little brother, they went on a backpacking trip, and I said, "Oh, I wanted to, how come you guys didn't invite me?" And they're like, "Oh, we didn't think you'd want to go." And I'm like, "Yeah." So they're like, "Okay, next time we go on one, we're going to invite you." And that was 3 years ago, and since then, it's just been my twin brother. He still lives in California, and he flies up twice a year. We do a winter trip and a summer trip. And my little brother, he lives here, and we try to go once a month, at least. So it's just, I've been hooked, and yeah, glad I've been back into it.
Wow. So you go backpacking once a month?
Yes, I try to. Sometimes weather and life gets in the way, our schedules don't line up. And I actually just last month, because um, I really wanted to go, and we weren't able to go. Let's see, we're in March, so we weren't able to go in January.
Mhm.
So February came around. My little brother, he wasn't able to go, and my friend, she didn't want to go. She wasn't able to go. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try going solo for the first time. Like, I've always been terrified, and I'm just like, I let fear stop me from backpacking for 20 years. And I know at some point I'm going to have to, my little brother, he's at some point I'm sure going to have a family of his own, and, not have as much time. So there's going to be a time where I'm going to have to be okay with going on my own sometimes. So I did it. And I almost turned around like 8 different times driving there.
Where did you go?
I went to Maxwell Butte Snow Park.
Uh-huh, yeah,
And
and the shelter?
actually, I didn't go to the shelter. I just kind of took the trail. And so, if you take the trail to Maxwell Butte, it kind of forks off, and there's a little tiny lake called Twin Lake. And I was going to try and make it there, but no one had broken trail through there yet. And
Gosh.
so, yeah, back in December, my brothers and I, we tried to get there, and we were half a mile from that point, and we were with snowshoes on, sinking in waist deep.
Isn't that
And
incredible? It's
yes.
oh, and if you're by yourself, you're the only one breaking trail, and it's so exhausting. It's and then
It
with the
is.
backpack on your back, I can't imagine.
Oh yeah, so that trip we ended up turning around and just going back home, and then we ended up going to Trillium Lake. But yeah, I just was like, you know what, I'm by myself, I'm not going to do anything crazy, I'm just going to, I broke trail a little bit just to kind of get away from the main trail, and then set up camp. And it was actually great. I built it up so much more in my head, being, by myself at night. And I just remember kind of laying in there and realizing, wow, I'm actually not really scared. Like, this
That's
is
amazing.
really nice. It was kind of boring because no one's there to talk
Yeah,
to, but it gives you time to reflect on things. And
yeah.
so it was nice.
Wow, I give you mad props for having your first solo backpacking trip be in the winter. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
you can go in the summer and you'll have no issues at all.
Oh, yes. No, I'm looking forward to that because then I can bring my dog, dog,
Yeah.
he just isn't set up for winter, and so
No,
I was,
especially if you're sinking that deep in snow, the dog has no chance.
Oh, yes, yeah. Poor thing would be lost.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so do your kids backpack?
Yes, I've got 2 girls, soon to be 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and, I do take them in, the summer and then in, later spring, early fall. They, so they're typical teenagers, they kind of complain and, "Ah, do we have to go?" And I mean, I guess it's fun, but, I want to play with my friends. And so I force them to go, and they end up having a really good time. The conversations on the way back, or I guess, that was really fun. And I guess I can do it again because I always give them the option. I'm like, look, you said you want to do it, so let's do it. But if after this trip, you don't want to go on another one, that's fine. You don't ever have to go. I always let them set the distance, so I pick trails that have, plenty of camping spots along the way, so if they just wanna stop after, like, 2 miles and they wanna keep going, we have those options, and I just really want it to be a positive experience for them because it's just I've heard somewhere the term wilder high, and that's really what it is. It's can be challenging physically backpacking depending on what trails you do, but just you come back physically tired but mentally just so much more refreshed and ready to just tackle the day-to-day stuff, and it's just like a reset button.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. That's amazing. So how has the outdoors helped shape you into the person you are today?
Well, there's, I mean, a couple ways to go about that question. As far as experience in, backpacking and hiking, um, I- it's funny with my brothers, we kind of have settled into our roles, and I'm the researcher. So anytime they have questions on like gear and equipment or anything, they come to me because they know I've done my research, and on the trails, I'm always researching, okay, where's water on this, or where can we pack? What permits do we need? I do all the research. And so, you know, just looking back at my first backpacking trip to now, I kind of think like, wow, some of the things we did that I didn't even think about. Like, I hope my aunt and uncle did. I'm sure they did, but like, I don't even think we had a first aid kit. So
Oh
like
gosh.
the 10 essentials. And so it's been, and then that first trip I did with my brothers, we went to Jefferson Park. It was before actually we were there like a week before the fires
Oh,
swept through.
wow.
Yeah, and
So were
so
you
yeah,
seeing smoke from
y
the where the fire had started already?
yes, we were, and it was funny because I mean, it's not funny, but, it was terrible, but, we were sitting there seeing the plumes of smoke, and so I was kind of, like, getting a little nervous, and I asked my twin brother, he's a firefighter, and he actually did years, with the Forest Service, and so I said, "Are you worried?" He's like, "No, that's pretty far away, yeah, it could move quickly, but gauging by the distance, if the wind did shift, we'd still have time. Plus, we'd have the lake right here. It was Russell Lake, and he's like, we can jump in that. And a couple people asked us, are you guys worried about that? We
Oh
said,
gosh.
well, my brother was a Forest Service firefighter, and he says it's fine, so we're not too worried. But that trip, it was August, and I looked at the temperatures, but I did like the local, weather on Apple, and of course it doesn't get there. Said the low was going to be like 40 degrees. So I'm like,
Yeah, in
okay,
Detroit.
yes, exactly. I didn't take into consideration the elevation. That
Right.
night it got down to like 32 degrees. I had
Oh, no.
yeah, I was like, "Well, if I bring a lot of clothes," and because the only sleeping bag I had was just for regular car camping, so it was big and heavy, it filled up my entire pack. So I was like, "Well, maybe I'll just bring my felt sleeping bag." My brother we cowboy camped, so I brought a tarp to lay on in my sleeping pad, and I was like, "And I'll just bring some layers of clothes, and it'll be 40, I'll be okay." I had never been so cold in my entire life. And so, they say you pack your fears. So now that's what I'm always worried about is being cold. Um, so I've learned about that, the higher up in elevation, if it's clear, you want to add 7 to 10 degrees to the temperature for every 1,000 feet. If it's cloudy, anywhere from 5 to 6 degrees. Um, so that and 10 essentials, of course, leave no trace principles. So I've learned a lot on that. And then um, you know, uh, just more respect for nature and being out there, and just the the fact that we do actually get to have areas that we go out there, and it's really made me respect more the leave no trace, especially as a lot more people get out there and you see just how much wear it does. Uh, um, and so, um, learning more about that and trying to preserve it so that future generations, my kids, their kids can enjoy it. And it doesn't have to be, if we can all just do our part, then it doesn't have to be so regulated, and
Right.
it's a lot easier to get out there and enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did you I know you said you do a lot of research. How did you kind of get into learning about all this stuff? Because I know a lot of people who, get into hiking and backpacking, they probably don't know even where to start with like leave no trace and stuff. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And yeah, so how did you, like, what kind of resources did you use?
Well, Google, and then I don't remember what I was searching, but then your site came up, and some of your YouTube videos, and so I was watching those, and I just kind of like devoured them, watched all the videos, and then I went to your website and was reading on, your different trail reports, different hikes you had. And then just from there, it automatically, like, YouTube will go, oh, maybe you'll like this based on
Right.
what you're. And so I found some other people, and from there I've realized, like, okay, I need to realize what kind of backpacker I am, and so I take that into consideration in my gear. Like, of course, ultralight's nice, but at this point in time, I'm not a through hiker, so I do tend to add a little more luxury items because it's like, well, it's 1 pound, and it does add up.
Well, and if you're not a through hiker, just like me, I'm not a long distance hiker. I go, X amount of miles, and then I want to enjoy the lake or whatever. And it's like, well, if you're there for a couple of hours before you go to bed, you want those luxury items to, let's
Exactly.
say your Kindle to read, or a hammock, or, whatever people take, a camp chair, those kind of luxury items that through hikers don't need because they just don't have time to utilize them. But
Exactly.
yeah, we do. So it's nice to take some of those things sometimes, for sure.
Yes, exactly. And so it is a little daunting when you go on the internet, because there's so many, it can be easy to be sucked into that, like, oh, ultralight, ultralight, ultralight. And because it is nice, And so it was really nice to have a site like yours where it was just like, just get out there, like, evaluate what you have and just get out there, and you don't have to go far. It can be a couple miles in and you could still have that same great experience. And so, um, I just started Googling, things I want to know. And then from there, went to your YouTube channel, and then, like, some other ones like Dan Becker, and, or Justin Outdoors, and some other ones I can't think of right now. But, yeah, it's just been, there's so much information out there. And my biggest thing was just, okay, well, I need to figure out what kind of backpacker I am. And then from there, that's when I can narrow down, like, the research, because it's that fine line of, like, weight and comfort on certain things, how comfortable you want to be and how much weight you're willing to sacrifice, or how much you're willing to pay for that, weight savings.
And you might not even really know what kind of a backpacker you want to be if you've never even done it, you know? So going on a couple of trips, 1 or 2 little overnights with just whatever you have just to see, is this even something I'm gonna want to do? Or, what am I willing to spend money on and cut weight? Or, do I not care? Do I just wanna do 5 miles and then,
Yeah,
have
exactly.
total luxury camp?
So that's been fun, because we did the Timberline Trail, and that one was a little more like, brought a couple things that was like, oh, okay, these aren't really things I needed because you're pretty much, one day we did like 18 miles, and you know, yeah, and then you're like, okay, we just, you're barely have the energy to eat, and then you're just going right to bed. So it's like those days, those types of trips where it is long miles because we did it in 3 days, and so you know, it's you realize, "Oh, wait, okay, I didn't need to really bring this luxury item because I didn't use it at all." And so you kinda make those notes. I do keep a little note, running notepad in my phone to document those things. Like, okay, if you're gonna do just a trip focused mainly on mileage, you don't need these items. And so kinda determine what kinda trip I'm doing, and that determines what I'm bringing.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that. What are some lessons that you've learned through being in the outdoors and backpacking?
Well, of course, like I said, I'm research and pack my fears. So I always research like weather and trail conditions. I like to be prepared as much as I can. Control as much as I can, and then and be prepared for worst case scenario. And so for me, definitely plan on it being colder than you think it's going to be. And then just you know, um, for me, it's been a great relationship builder, like with me and my brothers. Um, we're all at different points in our life. My little brother, there's an 11-year age difference there. And it's just been something that we've been able to do together. And I love that it's something that can bring people from all walks of life together. And so just being outdoors, you can learn so much from all sorts of people. And there's just something about being outdoors. It's so uniting. Like I said, it doesn't matter like where you're from. You just have that common interest there. And somehow that creates these amazing bonds and friendships and relationships. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. You said that you guys each have your different roles when you're backpacking. What are their roles?
So, my little brother, he's the navigator. He's really good at, yes, orienting, knowing. I mean, I can look at it and I go, okay, we think we got to start over here, and we'll get going. I go, oh no, wait, we got to go back. It's over here. So I'm not good at that. He's really good at that. And then my twin brother, he's like a bulldozer. He keeps us going. He just
He's the
motivates us.
motivation.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he charges every hill and come on, you guys, here we go, let's do it, and so and then, it's just it's fun. So
That is really great. I love hearing that. You have a little bit of everything. You don't have a camp cook. You need a camp cook.
yeah, no, that's one thing we actually haven't really, we all kind of cook our own individual meals, but we have kind of been talking about like, divvying up the food and having like a big meal, a communal type meal. Yes, yeah, so we may venture into that. So
What is currently one of your favorite things about backpacking?
like I said, spending time with my brothers, and then just how it recharges you when you go out there. Like I said, the day to day, going to work, coming home, all the daily stuff of life, the news, everything that can just add to the stress and the just constant barrage of thoughts in your head. And then you get out there and it's a chance to just let it go. And I love that, like I said, like it's a reset button. You come back just so refreshed and just ready to do life all over again.
I love that. Is there a specific trip this year that you're looking forward to?
Well, this year we don't have any big one planned because I'm actually my twin brother and I were doing a marathon for our 40th. So I'm kind of spending time doing that, my very first marathon. But next year we're gonna really try to get in the lottery for the Wonderland Trail. Yes, we've been talking about doing that one for a while. Last year we did Mount Whitney, and
Oh, how
this
special.
yes, it was great. So, I mean, I wanna do the Wonderland Trail, I wanna do, the Sisters Loop, I'd love to do the, John Muir Trail as well. That one's a little bit of a time investment, so I'll have to that one's a lot more planning. But you've inspired me to try to plan more trips out, like, in Northern California as well, get out there. Yeah.
The scenery down there is just incredible and so I feel like so underrated.
Yeah, just your videos and that you've posted. I loved watching those YouTube videos of your trips and reading about them, and so I definitely want to plan some of those. And there's so many. I love living here and just so many options.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. What is a message you'd like to share with the listeners? Could be anything like an inspirational quote or a place people should visit or a tip on getting started.
Yeah, no, I feel like I sound like a broken record when I say this, but just get out there. I know everybody says that, but honestly, like, I mean, if I could survive a, 32-degree night with just a fleece sleeping bag and a few layers of clothes and still come out, wanting to do more of it, anybody can. So, just remember your 10 essentials and but just get out there and do it. There's so many areas, so many helpful people out there in different Facebook groups and content creators on YouTube. Like I know you're pretty interactive with your viewers and just there's so many helpful people out there. Like you could go even park, just at a trailhead and go a couple miles in. There's places where you can do that and that way you're close enough to your car if it's not working out. But just get out there and just do it.
Especially nowadays, like I feel like it used to be, a couple years back, maybe like 5 years ago or so, it was way more like gatekeeping, like I'm not going to tell you the where I go and the gear I use and stuff. And now it's so much more just like this is what I use, this is where I go, these are the awesome trails, like it's so much more free with the information everywhere. So,
Yes, yeah, and I can get see both sides, it does like, with the whole permit system that has been implemented in a lot of Oregon, um, it it seems overwhelming, but actually it's not too hard, especially, if you want to plan ahead and try and get those permits or the week before. I've had lots of success getting that. And so,
yeah, the week of seems to be the way to do it, I think. I didn't have any issues actually last year when I went to get my permits. I always was able to get them and there was plenty available the week of.
yes, exactly. I was a little worried, but it actually ended up being really good. And so, um, yeah, there's lots of people willing to help. And, um, like I said, you know, just get out there, just do it. But definitely for sure, research those 10 essentials and the leave no trace because, we just want to keep everything open and accessible to everyone. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I know you're really into backpacking, but do you do a lot of day hikes as well?
I don't do too much day hiking, because I've got a balance with my family. My husband and my kids aren't as enthusiastic about it as I am. So I have to balance the weekends with what they want to do. So if I can, I'll try to do, a one hike a month as well. Um, More so, I always try to plan one when my kids are on breaks, like spring break. I'm planning on taking them on a hike, and then during the summer, try to get those done, at least day hikes if they don't want to go on a backpacking trip. And so, but I definitely do more backpacking than day hiking.
Okay. Very cool. What's your favorite backpacking food? I always want to know.
Oh, It's my breakfast. I love breakfast. So I found one, I don't remember where on YouTube, but he did grits. So I'll bring an egg. I cook the grits, crack an egg in there, stir it.
Wait,
Bring
how do you
some
bring an egg?
I actually so I bring like one of those those Tupperware container that come in like that lunch meat comes in?
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, I'll wrap the egg in a paper towel and put it in there, and then put, like, maybe, like, some chips, things that I don't want crushed, and I just put it on the top part of my pack, and it keeps it from breaking, yeah. I haven't ever had an egg break, and so,
Oh, that's
yeah,
amazing.
crack the egg in the grits, and then crumble some bacon, a couple slices of bacon and some cheese, salt, pepper, and a little sriracha, and it's a really
Wow,
good breakfast.
that sounds epic.
Yeah, it's good. Like I said, I love breakfast, so
Ugh, that morning tent coffee, it's just the best.
it is, it really is. I just I don't to me, I know backpacking's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's totally fine, but I'm out there and I just go, "Wow, I can't believe there's people that actually don't like this."
I mean, sleeping on the ground isn't always the best, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, the way I look at it is it makes you appreciate home a little more, right?
yeah, it sure
Get
does,
back
it
home in your
sure does.
comfy bed and
Yep, and that
so
shower, that after
oh,
backpacking
yes.
shower, that's the best shower ever.
Yes, no, after I did Timberline, came back, I that was one of the best showers.
So I guess my last question that I'm curious about is how did you get your kids into backpacking? Because I know that's something people struggle with is, they have this hobby and this thing they love to do. How do you get your family involved as well?
So, I try to make it as easy as possible for my kids, so I had them just carry their, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, and snacks, and their clothes. So their pack, isn't it's definitely under 20% of their weight. And I bring I'm essentially like the pack mule. I'll carry the tent. I carry all their food. They carry their snacks, but I carry all the food. I bring stuff for s'mores to do over like the little, isobutane stove. And just I'll could bring extra snacks for them as well. And I like I said, I find places where there's multiple campsites along the way, so I let them set it up. I try to find some place or like near a river, so that they can play in the river and have fun. And that's really what it is, just keeping them fed and really letting them feel like they have kind of a lot of say in um, the camping spot and how far you go. So, that's been really key. So I always tell them, they go, "How much further?" I go, "It just depends on you. We got a little camp spot up here. We can take a break there. If you guys want to just camp there, we can. Or if you want to keep going, we can do that." I leave a lot of the decisions up to them on where we camp. So that's to me been the key, and the on the research I've done is really making sure they're well fed, had lots of snacks and treats. At that point, on these trips, kind of nutrition is goes out the window a little bit. You bringing a lot of incentives like candies, and so that gets them excited about. I go, okay, what treats do you want for the trip, and let them pick it out. So
Yeah, making it so that they feel more like they're part of the excursion versus like I'm just dragging you along.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I like that a lot. Well, I really appreciate you coming on this podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, thanks for all you do. Congratulations on 3 years. Um, and so yeah, thanks. Like I said, you were a huge help in my journey back into backpacking. So
Yeah, yeah. I love hearing that. That's very inspiring and makes me want to, keep doing this for sure.
yeah, and your books, I've got all your books. So that I always, when I do a day hike, I'm always, which one should I look for? I'd love that feature how you put on all your hikes in your books about which ones, backpacking friendly. So we've used that in our trip planning, so that's been great.
Well, thank you so much, Lindsay.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Again, if you have an inspirational story about how the outdoors positively impacted your life, please send a short synopsis to hikeoregon@hikeoregon.net and put in the subject line podcast guest. Thank you so much for listening. Stay safe and happy trails.